Michael. I live in Derby, 51 years of age. Been invited to talk to you about, obviously, being gay and obviously for pride awareness, but also as well discrimination. It does exist. Life's a lot more easier now, but there's still a long way to go. Discrimination, I have had it. Had it through my school days, growing up in the 70s and 80s. Very bad. Children can be bad. It's part of the learning curve, I guess. The name calling, sometimes bullying. Sometimes it would be quite physical, where they push you and name calling you, attacking you. People nowadays will say that's part of growing up, but is it acceptable? I can't answer that question. I don't think it's acceptable, but that always comes down to the parents and the education they get. But leaving school, you go to college, kind of get it there and then, but not as much. But discrimination, especially in like workplaces, because that's our key thing when we're adults. I have had it. I worked in a job. I got a great job. It was about 10 years ago, working for a very, very professional company, dealing with an emergency background. And I was a call handler, dealing with emergencies. I don't really want to say the company name because I don't want to embarrass them. But basically, I'd started the job and you go through initially 8 weeks of training. My background to this job before this one was mainly customer service roles. And in this role, I did enjoy it. It was a great job, great salary, good hours. It was everything I wished for. So one day I took a call from a customer who had lost all power in their home. And this wasn't just a normal general customer, it was also a business. So losing electricity supply, it's quite damaging for the home and also his business. Customers, when they ring up, they're only ringing up when they've got a problem, and obviously most people are quite irate. This customer is irate, and from my background and from my experience, when you get an angry customer, you listen to them, don't interrupt them, just let them voice their concerns. So I did that on this occasion, and then it was my turn to speak, and I reassured the guy that the power supply would be connected within the next 6 hours, and I sympathised with him. You know, it's not nice, and we've all had this. We've always had a power cut, say for example, and it is annoying. But obviously, for somebody that's running a business, it's even more worrying. Dealt with the caller. Absolutely fantastic. He was happy. He got the answer. He knew what the problem was, and he knew we were working on the case for him. So about 30 minutes after that, I got took aside. I got took into an office by the so-called floor manager, which was a woman, and who sat me down, and she says, "I'd like to listen into one of your calls." And I went, "Okay." So she played the call, and she asked me, what did I think to it? And I said, I think I did really well. Customer is obviously very irate, and at the end of the call, the customer was fine. He was happier because he'd got a result. He knew what was happening, etc. Then it came, and I got told if I could be more manly on the phone. And obviously I felt a bit uncomfortable. I'm thinking, what do I do? So I approached her and I said, what do you mean by being more manly? And she says, well, can't you speak like a man? And I went, right, well, what's that got to do with it? The guy could understand me. You know, is there an issue? And then because I was being nice to a person, she doesn't do this with the female callers, but only on this one caller, which was a male, and suggested that I was flirting with them. And I said, I don't think so. I said I was just doing my role, my job, and my job is to be professional. But she insinuated that I was being flirtatious with a male person on a phone call. At that point, I thought there's obviously something a bit more deeper here. And it came back to the original part of the questioning when she says, can I just not speak like a man? So I knew where this was going. It wasn't going in my favour. The girl in question, I shouldn't have been... I was a little bit rude back now, which I will tell you. I knew my time was up at this company. I was in for a rough ride. So the girl in question, she was a very large girl. She was like 6'2", and she was built very big build, and I was a bit unprofessional back. And I said to her, I said, I'll crack you a deal. I said, I will talk more manly if you lose 10 stone. It didn't go down too well. So I got my bag and I just said, this job is not for me. I'd like to go. And I left that building, got in my car to drive home. I felt so much relief because what I'd been hiding for 8 weeks is the gossips, the talking, the little bits of name calling all behind my back. It all came to light on that one day. I then got a phone call about an hour later from the manager of this building, and not asking me what had happened, what's up, what could we have done better. All I got was further abuse, saying we didn't want you in the building anyway. And when I challenged him and asked why, he couldn't give that to me. I was a little bit upset, as you can imagine. I'd just walked out on a job, and I was facing the prospect now of being unemployed, and the following day was my birthday. That's why it's so vivid in my mind. A couple of days later, I was talking to a friend about the situation, and they said, you really need to report this. So I did. I made a complaint to the head office, and to this day, 10 years later, I never did hear anything back. So what I did do, I did go to the police and spoke to a really nice police officer. I felt a bit stupid. I felt stupid, but I needed to tell somebody, and I did. And the police officer was amazing, said it shouldn't be happening. It is a form of discrimination. Would like to go and visit them. So I said, yeah, please do. And about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call saying that they've been to visit this workplace, and the 2 people in question, they had been cautioned and been warned about their behaviour and their actions. I'm quite a tough cookie. I've got good friends. I could handle that, but for some people in our community, they haven't got anyone to talk to. Some people are not out, or they just feel too embarrassed. And this is where you get the further problems down the line. And, and some people can do silly things. That's just one of a number of incidents. Discrimination, it's not just a workplace. It can happen anywhere. It can happen when you're supermarket shopping, as I had it a couple of weeks ago, when somebody was buying something off a shelf and I couldn't get it because the person was in the way, and I just very kindly said, would you mind moving out of the way so I can get this item? And I got a look where you could die from, and and a bit of a comment was made. And I said to the person, I beg your pardon. And they said the comment again, but under their breath. And I just walked away. I'm better than them. It's just, I don't know, it's their background, maybe their upbringing. bit shallow. We've all got an opinion. But when you leave your front door, you're on a stage, and you have to be so careful what you say and think about other people's feelings. It's a tough one. Where I work now, I've been there for 6 years, and very different industry from what I'm used to, but it's brilliant, absolutely amazing. There's a big diverse of characters there. We have a laugh. I'm openly gay. I've got no qualms about coming out or anything, and they just treat me. It's just like one big happy family. They treat me as their own. They're lovely. And yesterday, I actually spoke to my chief executive officer, the boss, and I asked him a question. I said, I'm doing this podcast. Is there anything you'd like me to say, or what's your opinion? Because I'm seeing it from their angle. And he actually said, I don't see any issues at all. I just see people for what they are. I just see people for people. Be if you're black, white, Asian, etc. If you're gay, you're gay. You know, as long as you do your job, you're happy, you're polite, I'm all right with it. I just wish the world could be a bit more like that. But one of my very first jobs, just going back in history, I was the stereotype. I was cabin crew and a flight attendant, which was my dream job, and it still is to this day. I was very lucky. I travelled the world, been to beautiful places, worked with some amazing people who are my friends today, be that cabin crew or flight deck captains, first officers. But you can imagine, you know, the passengers coming on board, they just presume every male is a gay. And the funny thing is, where I was operating from, there was probably 200 guys, and I think there was only about 20 of us which were gay. So there was a lot of heterosexual guys. It was quite funny operating a flight, and if it was an all-male flight, how all the passengers presumed all the guys were gay. So I saw discrimination, not from just the gay angle, but also from heterosexual angle. So it was quite weird to see, and how their reactions were. They were quite upset by comments that are made. I don't think people realise what they do say. And I've said for many years, you know, be if you're in the retail industry or a flight cabin crew, working in a factory or an office, sometimes I wish there was a camera where we could film those people, what they're doing and what they're saying, and then I'd like to play it back to them and say, what do you think of this? Are you ashamed? Would you do anything differently? I think a lot of it is when they're with friends or certain people they do know, and they tend to kind of show off. It's a bit like the bully situation at school, but when you find these people on their own, they don't tend to say anything. We've all got a right to an opinion, but just be careful to who you are saying it to. It does have effects. It is damaging. Mental health is more open now. Like I say, I'm very lucky. I've got great friends, great family, but just be careful. Not everybody's as lucky as me. If you work in a workplace, you know, just be nice to one another. Respect people. You might not agree with them, but for the sake of your work relationships, just get along and have a great time. Don't presume anything. That's the worst you can do. I've had that over the years where I've had people come up to me saying, oh, so you're one of them, whatever that means. But they just presume things like, who's the man, who's the woman, is your house pink? But for my information, from my angle, no, I don't like the colour pink. You know, but to go to somebody and ask them who plays the woman, who plays the man. It's a bit wrong. It's a bit insulting. But all I can say to people is just think before you speak. That person's got opinions and they've also got a heart. We do the job just as good as anybody else. And you know what? We're not a bad bunch, you know. We do like to laugh. Me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but if you have questions, if you want to know anything, just ask. Instead of gossiping in the background and presuming something and making a rumour of it, just go to the person and ask them, you know, but do it in a nice way. Just say, do you mind if I ask you something? If they don't want to answer, maybe it was too personal, or maybe you've got to build up that trust. But, you know, me personally, I'd rather somebody come up to me and ask me a question, and I'll try and help them the best I can. I was talking to I put a post on social media last night to get other people's aspects on this subject today, and that's the majority of my friends are straight, heterosexual, and it was quite interesting. I had a guy message me who I've known for many years, and he's actually from the motor industry, and he's a really, really nice guy. He's very butch and very rugged, but he sent me a message last night, and this guy in question is 54 years of age, so left school over 30 years ago, well, nearly 4 years ago, sorry, and he said to me in the message, he says, I'm a lot better now, I'm a lot better person, but when he was at school in senior, he always remembered a bloke there. He knew his name and everything, and said this guy got heavily bullied because he was different, and he was beaten quite often, he was name called every day, and he never did anything. The person I'm talking about is a friend of mine called Paul, and he never did anything. He just walked on by, because that's how he was in those days. But now, at the age of 54, he does state, he goes, I always wonder how he got on, and I'm ashamed of myself that I never got involved and helped him. I just let it be. Me personally, what do I think about that? I've been that person that's been bullied. It would have been lovely if somebody would have stepped in and said, pack it in, you know, or just gave that little bit of help. So, and that still applies today in this year in 2023. You know, it does happen. People do gang up. You know, be the bigger person and step in and stop it, because like I keep saying, people do have feelings, and the effect it can have on somebody is it can be dire. You know, I've got another friend that also messaged me last night. This is a person I actually went to school with, a guy called Stephen, and who's happily married, he's got a child, he's very happy. Didn't really know anybody gay until probably 15 years ago, and he went on a work conference down in London, and he met a fellow work colleague who is, his words was the biggest gay in London. Took him to a show, and they went out for drinks, and he said it was one of the best nights of my life. He said it was fun, it was brilliant. And he says, I've never felt so comfortable, because I didn't feel like there was a fight going to break out, because he obviously went to a gay bar. And he said it was amazing. And he says, and my outlook is completely different. So to hear this from people who are the so-called butch ones, it's amazing. And attitudes are changing now. You know, so all I can say to you is be that better person. You know, we are a nice bunch, and get to know us, you know. We're really friendly. But thank you for listening. It's been a real pleasure, and take care.